Ladies and gentlemen, the Angry Soccer Guy is back again for a killer video and audio. You're going to absolutely love this one, especially if you're like a young coach or a new coach to the game, or you're a parent and you're trying to evaluate like best practices for your child. I'm going to show you the 4-step player development framework. Okay. And the overall key objective of this is to support players to want to stay in the game and build a football culture for the next generation. So very quickly about myself, I'm a guy that's been in grassroots for 10 years. So I've coached 2 years old all the way up to professional players like Luis Nani, Benji Michel, Teshwa Kandeli, Dom Dwyer, and I've trained them. Okay, so I have the experience in everything that comes to player development, player situation, whatever you want to call it. I've done the whole thing. Now, I have not coached at a professional level, so pros or college or anything like that, but I have been in the youth system for a long time and had the privilege of working with professional players and generational talents like Cauã from Brazil. Okay, so I've done everything in between. So what you're going to see here is my 4-step player development framework with the ideas in becoming and creating the correct steps and ages and basically what to focus on, right? So you're going to see it here in a second because I think the greater skill context gets lost in translation by everybody wanting to win right now. And by win right now, do what is like at all costs to win versus playing to win, which I'm going to highlight here shortly. But just take this and understand it. So we want to support players. This is the objective, to support players to want to stay in the game and build a football culture for the next generation. Notice I didn't say soccer, and here's why. 75% of kids are quitting sports at 13 plus because it's no longer fun. The stats and the studies, it's not good. Okay, so what does this mean? The kids feel like it's a job. Now, when it becomes a job, they're going to quit because they haven't fell in love with the game to the degree they need to continue. So that tells me there's too much pressure on them. Whether that's from the coach, that's from the staff, that's from the parents. It could be a combination of 1, 2, or 3 of them. And when it's no longer fun, they quit. So this is very important because if we're looking at this and we want to keep them in the game, and we're looking at this keyword here of football, right, not soccer. So let's talk about that first. So if we're talking about football versus soccer, this is how I define it. Soccer for me is what we see basically every single day in American youth soccer. You have kickball or kick and run. So teams are going to be kicking it, booting it, sending it, smashing it, clearing it, whatever verbiage you want to use to get the ball from the goal and as quickly as possible to the biggest player down the field or the fastest player. And players are going to play one single position. That's soccer. Now football is a completely different context. Right? You have to teach players that have technique. They have the ability to understand movement. They have to be in rotation. They have to be confident on the ball. There's so many little pieces that go into this that develop football, right? The football intelligence, right? And that's very important. And we want to make sure that these kids are staying in for future generations because what's happening is if kids are quitting, and it's all sports, but let's just focus on football or soccer, then that means they're not going to support the next generation. And I talk to a lot of parents all the time. And a lot of them share the same frustrations, or is that, and by frustration, I mean, they don't have the experience of being a parent with knowledge of the game. So maybe they never played, or they got into it because their kids started playing. And those are things that are realistic that happen more often than not, and it's affecting the majority of the players. Okay, so we need to focus on this, or not even focus, but think about this and how that's going to impact forward, and then put that together towards the framework and what you're going to see here in a second. So, first part, this is the 4-step framework. We're looking at phase 1, birth to 10 years old. Phase 2, 10 to 12 years old. Phase 3, 13 and 14 years old. Phase 4, 15 years old and plus. Okay, and this is what we're going to be breaking down now in the steps, and we're going to talk about each one individually. So first one, again, phase 1, birth to 10 years old. Here are the key things here. So first, falling in love with the ball and the game. So I always reference kids need to make the ball their best friend, right? The ball should be their best friend. They take it everywhere. They're dribbling it. They're pushing it. They're pulling it. They're dragging it. They're skill moving it. All these things. They got to fall in love with the ball first and then the game, in my opinion. Or at least that's what I've found. Okay. Second part. It's got to be fun. If it's not fun for kids, this is why they quit. If it becomes a job too early, they will quit. Parents and coaches and staff put too much pressure. So let's not put pressure on them. Let them enjoy the game. That's why they're playing and we're not, and we're on the sideline. Build responsibility. And so what this means is, and I'll give you a great idea. Parents always ask me, well, how do I help my child level up mentally? Cool. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 2 days, 3 days, maybe a week, maybe a month, longer, whatever it's going to be. But you can start putting steps in place to help them do this. One of the greatest steps you can do is put responsibility on them to get their bag ready. So it would be like their training gear. So like shirt, shorts, socks, their cleats or whatever shoe they need to wear to play ball, water, and they got to put it in their bag, bring it to you as the parents, and then you can double check to make sure everything's there. Or if you really don't want to do that, you can make them learn to grow up. Let them figure it out, and then when they get there and they forgot something, that's on them. Okay, so you can put responsibility on them. That's a great idea because that way, they're taking ownership about what they have to do. So if they want to go play ball, let them go make sure their stuff's ready. Especially the water, man. Like, you know how many times like I've seen that with kids? Mom, Dad, where's my water? It's your water, bud. Make sure you bring it, please. Just an idea for you, okay? Notice I said fun again. It's gotta be fun. I'm gonna keep re-emphasizing this. Build proper habits/techniques. So correct dribbling form, correct passing form, body mechanics, how they run, all these details that go into developing an athlete. Encourage risk-taking. When kids are young, they're very malleable. And if you build that part where they're not necessarily going to have a lot of fun, or really what we're talking about is the risk-taking, if they're told that they can't take risk and they have to always pass, they're not really going to enjoy the game very much. And we want them to go ahead and enjoy the game. But how can they enjoy the game if they're being told that they have to always pass the ball and everybody's screaming at them? So we want to encourage kids that have the ability to take risk. And if they take risk, that means that they're going to build habits that allow them to be confident in tough situations. So that's why risk-taking is so important. Notice again, I said fun. It's got to be fun. If it's not fun, they're not going to enjoy it. Okay? So encourage risk-taking, encourage dribbling. They need to have fun when they play, when they dribble. If they're doing that, they're going to have a lot of fun of doing other things and making it more about their process. We want it to be about their process. We want them to enjoy the game. And kids at this age range love to have the ball at their feet. They want to have the ball. And if you ask them this question, and I've done this multiple times, about 100 times, and you ask, for example, do you want to share your ice cream? More than likely, they're going to say, from a kid in this age range, birth to 10 years old, no, I don't want to share my ice cream. They get an ice cream, it's theirs, they want to keep it. The same thing with the ball. Now, I'm not telling you that they can't pass the ball, but encourage the ability to dribble. So instead of being on the sideline telling little Johnny, your son, or my son, hey, pass the ball to X, pass the ball to Z. Let them figure it out on their own, but encourage the ability to dribble. And the reason for that is, what does every other parent do in the game? They're on the sideline, and they'll scream at all the kids, pass, 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 pass. So if you're thinking outside the box compared to everybody else, you're going to put your child in a much better situation. And if we look at the best players in the world, including defenders and even goalkeepers, by the way, the ability of technique that they need to have, including the ability to dribble and really recognize when to dribble, when to pass, is immaculate. And players that, even defenders, have to learn when to dribble, when to pass. But when do you learn that if you're always being told to just pass? Okay? Now, lots of 1v1 to 3v3, and this way they get to play a variety of positions, they get to attack, they get to defend, they get to transition, and they get to play a variety of positions. Oh, notice what the next one is. Variety of positions. They get to play defender, they get to play midfield, they get to play striker, maybe even goalkeeper. That's fine. And look what the last one says. Fun. It has to be fun. And notice I put fun 4 times. If it's not fun, they're going to quit. Now look at the final piece here. You might already saw it. Results do not matter. Effort and play style does. So when I'm referring to results does not matter, obviously you want to play to win. You want to play to win, but you don't need to just win. So the result isn't the most important thing. It's the effort. If the effort is there, that means the child will improve. And when I say play style, the play style is important because it's the way that they play. We want the ball on the floor. We want to encourage them to have the ability to give effort and have a good style of play. Ball on the floor. Okay, so the result at the end of the day doesn't matter. Of course, we want to play to win. Play to try and win the game. But if you lose, it's okay. But this is, we're looking at here, the process versus the outcome. The outcome is the result. The process is the amount of effort and the play style. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. And for some reason, my dog continues to bark at me, but that's okay. So, looking at the next part here, phase 2, we're looking at 11 to 12 years old. Now notice, we should have already built the ability to have fun and the ability to love the game and love the ball. So by doing that, we now are at the next phase of their development where they're going to have to expand on what they've already been doing. And this is going to take their game to a higher level. And that's what we're looking for, is to take them to a higher level where they have to try new things, still play a variety of positions. And notice again, the word fun. It still has to be fun at this age. And I've seen a lot of times kids right around this target range is where they start losing interest. So their level of competition drops. They don't practice as much because it's not as fun anymore. It still has to be fun at this age. Even if they tell you, Mom, Dad, I want to be a pro or I want to go to college. If it's not fun, even at this point, they're going to quit. We need to make sure it is fun. And then the next one, individual tactical concepts. Okay, well, if it's individual tactical concepts, this is talking about like what part of the foot to receive the ball with, how do I open up my body position, scanning, and all those details that go into individually being great. Because what happens is, and what I've noticed is players ultimately have a lot of skill and they maybe have ability to play at a higher level, but then they're not being taught those individual tactical concepts. And if you think about the game in greater context, okay, if we're looking at this in a greater context piece, you should be able to take a player, plug and play them into a new team, which means they should be able to play. And really what I'm trying to reference is, we look at the best teams in the world, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Manchester United. They go out and buy a player. So last summer, Manchester United bought Rasmus Højlund. He's a striker. Well, he played for another club. They got to pick him up and move him into that team. So that's why the individual tactical concepts are so important, because it's basically plug and play. You should be able to move a player from one position to the next position and then to the next position after that. Or really a new team is what I'm referring to. Now, let's look at the next part where it says passing concepts in groups. This is key because at this age range, you want to be teaching players passing concepts. So overlaps, give goes, 1-2s, playing with width and depth, right? Those are passing concepts that need to be taught. And then you'll see here, it connects with lots of 1v1 to 5v5. We still want to be developing those small-sided games. And if you look at a country like Brazil, not all their players, but a lot of their players are playing futsal until about 12 or 13 years old. In fact, I went to Brazil just at 12 years old, and I was there for 3 weeks, and basically, which is crazy, out of the entire time that I was there, we played soccer one time, or football. The rest of it was small-sided and or futsal, so like cages, which is crazy to think about. Now, when they hit 12 years old, we also want to introduce them to the Future Pro Player Framework. This is where you can see as a parent if your child really wants to, when they say, hey, I want to go to a higher level, like I want to go be a professional. Well, this framework will allow you to see as a parent if your child is actually serious. Do they really want to try and become a professional? Well, this is the way that you're going to find out, because there are 16 actions within the framework that don't expect your player to be able to implement right away at one time. So because there's 16 of them, they might be able to do 3 or 4 at a time. And then as they continue to age, you continue to see if they're really serious. But this gives you the platform as a parent to evaluate if your child is actually serious when they say, yeah, Mom, yeah, Dad, I want to be a professional. Yeah, Mom, yeah, Dad, I want to be a professional. Okay, well, are you willing to commit to the following? But please remember, like I just said, do not expect them to be able to implement all of them right away. It won't happen. So it'll take time. And one of the things I tell parents to do is, in fact, I help players do this myself, is you print out the piece of paper with all 16, and that way they can see it every single day. Am I doing these? What more do I still need to do? Okay, please see here, results do not matter. So still in this age range, the result doesn't matter. Okay, effort and play style does. See how it continues to translate. And the key detail with this is, and this is why I keep saying this, is at this age, still nobody's getting a professional contract. Nobody's making millions of dollars a year. And as well, nobody's getting a college scholarship or a college offer. That's why the result doesn't matter. Again, I'm not saying that they can't play to win. They can play to win. You should play to win. But if you don't win and you're still trying to play the right way, it's okay. That's the key thing. If they're playing to win and they're trying to do the right things, great. If they're just kicking the ball down the field and playing American soccer, that's not good. That's basically neglecting player development. Best way to explain it. Okay, now we're at phase 13 and 14. Now, before I talk about this side, I want to talk about this part again. You can still see the result does not matter. Effort and play style does. Now, we're getting closer to where the result will start mattering, but even at this age, the result doesn't matter. Because still, nobody's getting a college scholarship, nobody's signing professional, unless they're a generational talent, which there are, one kid out of 50 million. Okay? So the numbers are still extremely small for this to even really matter. But again, think about the process, not the outcome. So it's all about making sure that we have the right infrastructure in place to make sure that the players are going to be improving. So then, you can see the first part here, desire to compete. So the last one, learning to compete. Now we're at desire to compete. So step one, make sure the player falls in love with the game and the ball, or ball and then game. Second step, learning to compete. Third step, desire to compete. And this is where we're at now. So we've gotten those steps in. Showing desire to play against the best. They want to play against the better players. This also can include, and I could have put this before, the willingness to play better players, but also older players. So if they're a 10-year-old, they should want to have that challenge of playing against a 13-year-old. Win or lose, whatever, but have the confidence to try it. Okay? See, the next one, high level of skill and technical ability. At this age, if you followed the previous steps, the players will have a higher level of skill and technical ability because they've been doing a bunch of details, okay, that have been in this. This is key. Decisive in 1v1 to 5v5 action and play. This also includes like 2v1s, 3v2s, 4v3s, whatever, but it's in here. Next one, awareness of playing field. I put scanning. I see a lot of times that kids, especially at this age range and older, my God, the amount of ball watching that they do where they're just, ball moves and they're like this. And they're just ball watching. Whereas ball's here, I need to be able to look here as well. Scanning to be aware of the situations that are around them. So where are defenders? Where are teammates? Where is space? Okay? Confidence to respond to mistakes or challenges in front of them. Well, if we've been following the steps, if you get to this point, the player should be confident to be able to respond to the mistakes that they make and or challenges in front of them. Along with this, the willingness to always give 110% every single day. And you can see here, I put goldfish mentality, and you're probably like, goldfish? What does that even mean? Well, I think it was an interview I listened to, or maybe I read it. I listen to a lot of different stuff and read a lot of different things, but it was about Phil Foden. And Phil Foden came out and he was talking about it was Pep Guardiola talking about Phil Foden. And he said one of the greatest traits about Phil Foden is his ability to let things go. So if he misses a shot or he makes a mistake or causes an error, right? Whatever the circumstances, he does something wrong. He lets it go immediately. So it's like within 3 seconds, it's out of his mind. And this is something that I personally struggled with because I would make a mistake and then sometimes I would shut down. But mistakes are a part of the business. Mistakes are going to happen. We have to be okay with them happening because most games are won or lost on mistakes. And with kids, think about professionals. At the professional level, mistakes will cause the game to collapse, right? So if the game collapses at the professional level due to a mistake, you don't think that kids have a higher risk of making a mistake? In fact, they would have a 300% greater chance of making a mistake. It's a big problem. So we need to be very aware of these details because if they're making mistakes, it needs to be okay, or they should be allowed to make mistakes. And then, like I put here, last one, higher levels of implementation of future pro player framework. So, like I said, with 12, or between the ages of 11 and 12, and it starts at 12, is their ability to start implementing these strategies. But at this age range, we should see a greater success point of the implementation of the future pro player framework. And that way we're seeing if they're really still being serious about wanting to be a professional. Okay. Now, phase 4, 15 years and older. We're going to look at these main categories, okay? But notice here, results matter. Okay. So now we're at 15 years and older. The result now matters because this is where, and it's really 15 to 19, 15 to 21, 23 could be stretched to. This is where you'll get college scholarships. This is where you're going to get professional contracts. This is where you're going to be getting to the next level. It's this age range and older. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 years old. So the result does matter, and this is important context. So now you notice it says playing to win. We are trying to go and win the game now. This is not just competing. This is not learning to compete. This is not desire to compete. This is playing to win. Okay, you're going to see hopefully a lot more position-specific work where they're going to have maybe one position, two positions, three positions, and then you start training specific positions so they improve in certain areas. Then we have play against the highest level of competition possible. And then you can see the next one under that. Play against grown men and women. Well, if we look at the best players in the world and the best academies in the world, they're getting kids promoted to their first teams at 15, 16, 17 years old. Well, we don't really have that structure here the same way. Unless you're at an MLS Academy, then maybe you get the chance to do so. But being able to play in adult leagues, like a UPSL, like a USSL, will give you not the exact same level, unless you play at a very high level, and you're playing against teams that have a very high level. There are some teams that have very high level in UPSL or USSL, for example, or whatever other equivalent adult league. And you'll get the experience of playing against grown men. And if you're a player that can play against grown men and perform and or dominate, you will get out of the system. Obviously, I can't guarantee it, but what I have found is the players that have done that, and I've seen it happen a couple of times, like we had one do it, they get out of the system. And like we had a kid at 14 years old, he played 2 games, or I should say his first 2 games of UPSL. He got a goal in the first game at 14 years old. Second game, he got a goal and assist and was the best player. The other team was coming up to him saying, this kid's good. And he was 14 years old. And so he was able to get out of the system because of performances like that. But he had the mindset, the mentality, the desire to want to go do this. Okay? You also have to learn and play in 2 touches, because when you play against better and bigger, faster, stronger players, they're not afraid to hit you. So if you don't release the ball quickly, you're going to get knocked a lot. You need to learn to make impacts at a higher level, which means influence on the game. You need to be able to play well and make an impact on the game so you have that lasting impression where then people will be paying attention to you. So scouts, agents, recruiters, college coaches will be like, man, look at this kid. He's really standing out. And these are things that come together at 15 years old. So just to summarize again, the results matter at this age range. But anything before 15, the result doesn't really matter. Obviously, you want to win, but here is where the result does matter and will have impact on if you can get out or not. And by get out, I mean go to a higher level, like go to college, be a college student athlete, or be a professional. If you don't have that, then you can forget it. It won't matter. I mean, there are still some exceptions where, a player's not on a very good team but performs very well, he could get out. Yes. But I'm just saying overall, the result actually matters now when it comes to going to a higher level. Okay, and that is the main part of the framework. If you found value from this, smash the like button, share this with somebody, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in a future video, man. Have a great night.